Of all the questions we receive on a daily basis, this one is probably the one we get the most. How do I start selling? What are the things I should focus on when I'm just beginning? Well, in this video, I'll cover 5 tips for beginners kicking off their career in freight brokerage. And at the very end, I'll wrap up with a bonus tip that will help you close more prospects immediately. So stay with us through the end. I'm Benjamin Kowalski with Freight 360, where we provide the latest transportation sales tips and training videos to help you reach your goals faster. If you're new here, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button to be notified when we drop our weekly videos. And all of the links and details can be found in the description box below. For more free content, please be sure to check out our website, freight360.net, to access our entire library. Now, one of the areas we see beginners struggle the most is developing the confidence to pick up the phone and make a prospecting call. The confidence to develop rapport and trust with total strangers. But again, how does someone set out to actually build confidence? Let's start with a definition. Confidence is a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. So, how do we set out a plan to achieve confidence and self-assurance? We do this by creating habits and processes around the tasks that we want to become more confident in. And let's start out with the 2 most important skill sets at this stage in your career: generating leads and making prospecting calls. It's where you'll spend 90% of your time. And depending on how long it takes for you to become effective at both, will really determine how long it will take you to actually succeed at this. Which brings us to our first tip: batch your leads. And what does batching really mean? It refers to the grouping of like activities. For instance, generating leads, the process of finding shippers and the points of contact you want to speak with. That whole process, it's a skill, right? And the more you repeat that task, the better you will become at it. So block out time where you will only be completing this task. Not picking up to dial the phone and then researching. Just researching and inputting your leads at a later time when you're going to be calling them, right? And why is this? Because when we do a similar activity over and over again, big surprise, we improve and we gain confidence faster. Tip 2, batching your calls together. Just as in batching your lead generation, we want to batch our calling time. We see so many rookies and veterans for that matter falling into this poor habit of researching a lead for 5 to 10 minutes, reading through the website, random reviews of the company, etc., and then making one dial, getting no answer, and then starting this whole process over again, right? Remember that you need repetition to build these skill sets, these habits, and ultimately your confidence, right? Well, it's going to take you far longer to build these things, making one dial every 10 to 15 minutes, right? You never get any rhythm and you never get any flow. The sooner you can turn this into a habit, the sooner you'll be able to make those calls without the fear and hesitation you feel in the very beginning. Tip 3, group your leads by category. What do you think would be more effective? Talking to somebody with a different profession every time you make a call? Or talking to 10 to 20 bakeries or steel mills in a day? Well, obviously it's the latter, right? So plan your calls this way ahead of time. Make calls to prospects each day that have one commonality. Maybe you'll be calling, shippers that only ship steel coils in the morning and manufacturers of pipe in the afternoon. It doesn't really matter which ones you choose. What matters is that you can take things you've learned in one prospecting call into the next one. So keep that in mind when you're generating your leads as well. Brings us to tip number 4. Have enough leads. One of the truths about being human is that we operate differently when we feel that resources are scarce or abundant. It's a subtle mindset that affects all of us. So before you pick up that phone to make your first call, spend your first week generating no less than 200 leads. Pick 1, 2, maybe 3 categories and generate 100 of each. This should be enough for your first week of calls. Then you can replenish the leads you disqualified or weren't a fit that you spoke to. Because you should be making about 40 to 60 calls per day in your first few weeks on this job. So a good rule of thumb is to have at least a week's worth of leads before you begin. This way you can make your calls without the fear of running out. Tip 5, your tone of voice and rate of speech matter. People will rarely remember what you've said, but they will always remember how you've made them feel. In other words, how we say what we say often matters more than what we actually say. And a great tip is to mirror the rate of speech with the person you're speaking to. Think of it like this, like in warmer climates, down south, people tend to speak slower. Up north, specifically in like New York City, people tend to speak sharply and abruptly. Let's go, hey, get to the point, right? They prioritize time and getting back to what they were doing. So when you have the right tone and rate of speech, it goes a long way when you're trying to establish trust and rapport with somebody you've never met. Now our bonus tip, stand up and smile. We all sound a little different when we're smiling. And who doesn't want to do business with somebody that is enthusiastic and full of energy, right? And the best way to make sure that you're delivering the right energy is to stand up and smile when you're making calls, right? It's also a great tip to getting through gatekeepers. People are much more likely to be helpful to somebody that is pleasant and energetic. At the end of it, there is really no magic line or silver bullet when it comes to sales. There's no special phrase that gets all of your prospects to say yes. But there are a lot of little things that we can do to improve our odds in each and every call we make. And the sooner you implement these tips, the sooner you'll be closing more business. And remember, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.